Hey guys, we're back yet again with another Pokemon challenge. Yes, I was serious when I said I was going to be cranking more of these out. And this was technically a request. Rattata in Pokemon Y version. Y specifically because that's just the one that I play when I play this generation of games. And I'm 100% sure I can do this one. It's going to be hard, but I'm 100% sure I can do it. So let's get right into it. I use the Universal Pokemon Randomizer, which is a slightly different version of the randomizer for Gen 6 than it is for Gens 1 through 5. But it does exist. To replace, I think I went with Chespin to replace with Rattata. I don't remember. I just know that Callum ended up with Fennekin. So isn't Callum the one that picks the one that's advantageous to your guy? I don't remember. And after reassuring my quote-unquote friends that my name is in fact AJ, and that they don't need to call me anything else, especially nothing as stupid as what they were suggesting, I have a battle with Shauna that I actually lose, which sucks. Not because I have to win this battle, but because it means I don't get the experience from winning it. And then I went about super training Joey the Rattata, here named Joey for obvious reasons. Not all the way, but I feel like he could definitely use some extra attack and speed early on, though his EVs are never going to be perfect because I had to use him in the battle against Shauna, though because I didn't win, I guess I didn't get any EVs from that. I would also have to use him in the tutorial stuff in the super training menu, which forces me to give him defense EVs. Frankly though, if I wouldn't max out any of his EVs, I want it to be his attack. His speed can be about 50 to 70% there, and he'd still be fast enough. But I definitely want this guy to hit as hard as possible, since I'm going to be doing significantly less damage out the gate than basically every Pokemon in the game by the end. And considering how fragile Rattata is in both of his defense stats, you can see from the stat spread on the screen, by the end I'm probably going to have to be basically one-shotting everything to get through this. I think I can do that. You get Return very early in this game, which gets Stab and is also just good anyway. But I'm still going to need to do as much damage as possible. So even though I don't finish super training his attack here, I eventually come back and do it later. From here I head to the first gym, which is a gym that when I played through this game the first time, I took on with just my Froakie. So I know it's possible to do it with one Pokemon. And I take on the gym leader, but her Vivillon just wrecks me. It just destroys me on my first attempt. And that's a problem because when I go to leave the gym and go train, I can't figure out how to get out. And at this point I could have just let her knock me out and send me back to the Pokemon Center. But I legitimately did not think of that in the moment because I kind of panicked and thought I was trapped here because I'm an idiot. So I battled her again, and I don't know what was different this time, but I got really lucky. Like, she just made some bad move choices, and I seemed to roll high on my damage. And like, I have Focus Energy at this point, too, which is an okay move for boosting damage, as it does cause me to get off critical hits relatively often. But I managed to beat her, and I'm genuinely shocked, because Infestation was doing so much damage in that first battle. So yeah, I got through that. I got through that while panicking over literally nothing. Because again, I'm dumb. And moved on to the 7-year journey to the next gym. Like seriously, the gap between the first and second gyms in this generation of games is so long. Like there's cool stuff in here. There's that whole mansion thing where you have the cute fireworks date with Shauna. And the thing where you become nobility, that's pretty fun too. But still, it just goes on and on. I end up in Lumiose City, which is cool, but like, it was awkward to navigate on the actual console it was made for. On this totally legit version that I'm playing right now using a keyboard, it's even more awkward, so I don't like to spend a lot of time here when I'm playing for videos. And I head to the professor's lab to battle against him and his 3 Kanto starter Pokemon. And at this point I'm hitting hard enough that I plow right through him pretty quick. And I intend to pick a Charmander. I already caught a what's he called? Fletchling? Fletchling, is that what he's called? To be my flyer. I named it Hot Feather after another fiery bird from one of those Let's Play videos I keep telling you guys to watch. And I intend to pick a Charmander here to be my cut guy. But I guess using the universal randomizer on the starters screwed this up too, because my choices are just completely different. So rather than a Charmander named Blaze, after my own Charmander, to be my cut guy, I end up with a Chimchar named Blaze to be my cut guy. Which is, I don't know why I find this so funny. Like, the other two don't match up at all with the starters they replace, but then you get Chimchar, who's like a counterpart to Charmander. I just thought that was kind of hilarious. I move on from there, and then these two weirdos give me Return, which I immediately teach to Joey. And I travel freaking forever until I reach a point where some meaningful progress can actually be made. At which point I have to do a little side quest to get a fossil Pokemon. I pick the Sail fossil. I know if I didn't tell you, you'd ask. Actually, now that I think about it, ask anyway. Comments are good for the YouTube algorithm. And even though I don't intend to use him for anything HM related, I do keep him with me and name him Breeze after another Aurora-themed Pokemon. Again, from those Let's Play videos that you guys should watch. More importantly than any of that, though, I bought this cute new outfit. Look at it. Look how stripy it is. I love it a lot. And this brings me to the problem section of this playthrough. The second and third gyms are both going to be insanely difficult for poor little Joey. In fact, a Relicanth in Grant's gym completely walls me. I have to wait until I level up enough to get Super Fang, a move that lets me do a guaranteed set amount of damage equal to the opponent's current remaining HP divided by 2, before I can do enough damage to knock them out the rest of the way with my other moves. I could really use Dig at this point, but I can't get Dig until the next gym town. So I train in the area here, moving north to this Stonehenge place, battling trainers and Pokemon until I get Super Fang, and then come back and start working my way through the gym, which I gotta say is pretty cool. It's got a pretty cool design. I do like it. Several of the gyms in the game use the fact that the move to 3D allowed for Pokemon games to have this rotational camera thing going on, to allow for neat stuff like moving around corners as I'm climbing up these climbing walls. It's a little bit of a vertical maze, and I really appreciate that from a design perspective. And then I get to Grant, and he's really freaking hard. He's way harder than that Relicanth guy. It was actually a really, really fun challenge trying to get past him. What I ended up doing is I ended up leveling up to the point that I was one level away from leveling up and getting Endeavor. Because I know I can beat at least one of his Pokemon, so I get myself to the point that I will level up during the battle and learn Endeavor during the battle so that I can use it to finish off his ace. And I wasn't sure it would work because I don't do math, but I guesstimated that I would have very low HP by the time it came time to fight his ace, and I was right. I ended up with 6 HP just in time to, after endeavoring him down, finish him off with a quick attack. It was actually a pretty fun strategy to come up with. And I was really looking forward to coming up with a similar strategy to defeat Karina, the next gym leader. So I move on to her town. I buy Dig and replace Endeavor with it because unless I plan ahead to be at low HP at a specific time, Endeavor doesn't really help me in a general playthrough. Then I battle Callum for the right to be Mega Evolving or something, whatever the point of this battle was, causing Karina to go back to the gym so I can challenge her. And just getting to her was a chore because, again, this is a fragile Pokemon, and he's weak to the type of this gym, that being fighting type. So I had to try a couple times even against her gym trainers too. And then I get to her and I'm completely walled by her Hawlucha. It itself is also a pretty fragile Pokemon, but it just does so much damage with its flying press. And no matter which direction I come at it from, I don't think I can strategize my way out of this one. So I decide I'm just going to have to level up to the point that I can push my way past it. And now, unfortunately, this is when we come to a problematic section of this video, because a large chunk of my video footage was corrupted beyond repair. That's why you're seeing this instead of new gameplay footage. And I really hate this. I really hate doing this, but I just do not have time to replay this section of the game in time to get this video out by the time I wanted it to. And frankly, some of you guys are going to disagree with me, and that's fine. But I don't think this section is important enough to replay through anyway. Like, yes, the fight with Karina, it was in this section, the final fight with her. But all I did was level up 5 times to the point that I was fast enough and strong enough to one-shot her Pokemon. That was it. There was nothing more interesting than that. And then from there, because I was actually technically properly overleveled for a while, I didn't have any problems for a while. Literally the next 4 gyms were sweeps. There is one section that I want to talk about in here, that being the Mega Evolution successor battle with Karina, the technically 3rd time you fight her. I fought against her 2 Lucarios earlier, but I surprisingly didn't have much trouble with that. But it's a battle where technically I did lose the challenge, because it forces you to fight against her Mega Lucario with her 2nd Mega Lucario, which you then have the option to keep. And I did. I kept him and named him Beerus after another Animal Man creature from some show I watch. But I don't really count this. I don't really count this as a run losing thing, since it's mandated by the game that you do this. I just see it as a chance to, when you're doing a Gen 6 challenge run, to have the chance to actually use Mega Evolution at least once in the playthrough. Sort of an aside that it doesn't really count towards the rules. Just like whenever I'm out and about and I have my HM guys with me, I might get caught up in the occasional double battle, where technically a second one of my guys gets sent out. I just have to use non-effective status moves to ensure that they don't have an impact on the battle. Like, again, technically based on how you interpret the rules, in a situation like that I do lose the run, but I don't consider that a loss. It is why some of my guys are leveled up further than they should be, though, since sometimes they did survive to the end to actually get experience. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about that. That section was in the part of the video that I lost. And unfortunately, that means you guys won't get to see me use Mega Evolution in this playthrough of the game that debuted Mega Evolution. But again, I don't think it's that much of a loss. For the next few gyms, I'm going to just summarize really quickly. I might use some footage from a Let's Play in here to kind of back what I'm saying, but there really isn't much to say. Like, the Magneton at the Electric Gym gave me a little bit of trouble, and there was a gym trainer in the Psychic Gym who had a Medicham that was slightly problematic, but I got past the Medicham on the 2nd try, and I beat the Magneton on my 1st try, despite how difficult it was. And otherwise, every single Pokemon at the Grass Gym, the Electric Gym, the Fairy Gym, and the Psychic Gym was swept by Little Joey. They didn't stand a chance. Team Flare also popped up a couple times in here, again in their gaudy red suits, but they also weren't much trouble. In fact, they really just served to give me some free experience. Like, I gotta say, Team Flare is a pretty non-threatening evil team in the scope of Pokemon evil teams, but I do like that they spread out their appearances enough that it doesn't feel like you're having to take on a bunch of useless mooks all at once. Still, it's, again, not much to write home about. Honestly, the thing that I feel like you missed out on the most was me buying a new outfit, because it was so cute. Like, you can see it in some of this footage, but it's more fun to watch me buy it. Fortunately, this is where my footage picks up again, just in time for me to make the final push against Team Flare, infiltrating Lysander Labs, the lab owned by that guy who was very clearly, from his first appearance, the boss of this group, even though his BFF, Professor Sycamore, doesn't seem to want to see it. I navigate through here. It's a fun little maze. It's not super complicated, though. It's, in my opinion, one of the best designed final boss dens in the entire franchise, because it's just complicated enough to hold your attention, but it's not so complicated that you could get lost. And here I fight Lysander, and he gives me trouble the first time, but I rally on my 2nd attempt and defeat him pretty readily. This leads me to the revelation of where their final base is, under that Stonehenge place, because there's a giant genocide-causing crystal flower cannon weapon thing hidden there. that they plan to use to kill everyone who doesn't wear a gaudy red suit, which is just insulting because my clothes are so much cuter than theirs. So I head there with Callum and Shauna and we fight our way through, and I use a Master Ball to catch the legendary Pokemon I do not add to my team, and throughout the course of all of this I spank Lysander 2 more times. I go and I buy yet another cute outfit. Look how cute this scarf is, I really like it. Head on to one of the prettiest towns in the game. I cannot remember what it's called. I want to say Coraway Town, is that right? I don't remember. It'll probably be, it might be in the video. I don't know. But I head there and I take on Professor Sycamore and his now fully evolved 3 Kanto starters, and they were super easy, barely an inconvenience. This opens up the way to the final gym, which, despite me getting a little lost on the gym puzzle, was honestly not too bad. One of my moves is Dig, and the Pokemon in here, there's a couple of them that can use Earthquake, so I want to avoid doing that. And some of these guys are kind of bulky, but honestly, it's an Ice-type gym. It's not that difficult. I honestly had more fun in this town heading through the cool forest to go find the gym leader. It's again, a really neat, well-designed, but not super difficult maze-like dungeon. This game has a couple of those, and they're pretty solid, all of them. But yeah, granted, I did have to temporarily replace Dig with Grass Knot to get past the gym leader's Avalugg, since its special defense stat is so much lower than its regular defense stat, but it wasn't very challenging. This likewise opens up the way to Victory Road, which I navigate without much issue. The most difficult thing here was a battle against Callum. I battled against him and all of my rivals several times throughout this playthrough. I just haven't really mentioned it because there's so many rival fights in this game. It's not quite as bad as Black and White, but there's a lot of them. And Callum's been a little bit of an issue a couple of times. Back in front of, I think it was the 7th gym, I did lose a couple of times to him. His starter, once it evolves to Delphox, hits very hard against my Pokemon's weaker defensive stat. So if I don't knock it out, I'm left weak for the rest of his team. So I did have to try a couple times against him here, but I do enough damage that as long as I get a little lucky, I'm fine. I do still have Crunch after all, as well as some leftovers that I picked up relatively early in the playthrough to keep me a little healthier than I would otherwise be. So I managed to, in the end, get through just fine. I take on some small children who, once we enter the battle screen, become middle-aged men and women, and I'm at the Pokemon League. By the time I get there, I'm a level 94, and I go immediately to test my mettle and get a feel for whether or not I feel like I can win this yet by taking on Malva, the Fire-type Elite Four member. And I don't do super well. I don't knock out her first Pokemon with one hit, unfortunately, and even though I think I could have beaten her second Pokemon, a Talonflame, with some better luck, its Flame Body burns me and then it takes me out. So I go ahead and go for broke and just level myself up to level 100. This does mean, unfortunately, I will not be able to allow poor little Joey here to level up one more time at the end of the game to finally evolve into Eradicate, but I don't really think that's appropriate for this playthrough anyway, because he wouldn't be among the top percent of Rattatas anymore if he wasn't a Rattata. At level 100, I'm able to, using my Wit, my overpowered return move, and my leftovers, get past the first 2 Elite Four members fairly easily. Technically, there isn't a first 2 Elite Four members. This is one of the games where you can pick the order of the Elite Four, but I always do them in a specific order-ish. But against Malva, first, her Pyroar takes a little bit of work to take down. I ended up taking some damage in the process. But at this level, at level 100, her Talonflame goes down with one hit, and I'm starting to recover HP with leftovers. I don't get burned this time. She brings out a Torkoal next that I know can power up with Curse, so I wail on it with some returns and manage to beat it before it does enough damage to me to knock me out. And her final Pokemon, a Chandelure, goes down to a single Crunch. The second member, Wickstrom, took a little more finessing. He has a Pokemon with Sturdy after all, and he can do some pretty solid damage with literally all of his guys. Also, he has an Aegislash, which can just, it can cripple me if I mistime my attacks. and I had to try against him a couple times. Even his Klefki, his weakest Pokemon objectively, can be very tricky, though it likes to use spikes, and spikes mean literally nothing to me, so that's always nice. And I am able to get past it pretty well, and once I get a feel for the rhythm of his Aegislash plays, I'm able to get past it pretty easily too, using a combination of Dig and Crunch, since when it goes into its attack form, its defense plummets. Then there's Probopass, which is only annoying because of Sturdy, since it takes 4 times damage from my Dig attack, and he also has healing items, so I break its Sturdy with a quick attack and then take it down with Dig. That ends up being my endgame strategy for it. His most difficult Pokemon, though, for me, since I don't really have any super effective options against it at all, is his Scizor, because its defense is pretty good and it hits like a truck. The secret to beating it literally just being getting to it early enough that I haven't taken enough damage that it can knock me out in time for me to kill it. So I literally just try again and again until the RNG lines up for me to get to it when I have relatively high HP. This brings me to Drasna, the Dragon-type Elite Four member in this game, who I just can't beat her. Her first Pokemon, a Dragouge, is easy enough since it's weak to Dig, being Poison-type, but it can poison me with its Poison Point, which is annoying. And then out comes Druddigon, which has Rough Skin and Revenge, a move that's super effective against me and hits like a truck. And I can't quite one-shot it. I need an extra boost to my damage. At this point, Leftovers is still a great held item, but it's just not really doing me much good, since, just as I predicted early on, I have to one-hit most of these guys to stand a chance. Longevity isn't really the problem. So I let myself get blacked out, and I go pick up 2 items that might be helpful going forward. The Eviolite, which I don't end up using except in one test at one point, and the Silk Scarf, which boosts the power of Return. And Quick Attack too, but primarily Return. Return is what we're worried about. And even though I get past the first 2 members again using the same strategy I did last time, which is why I'm not bothering to show it, once I give Joey the Silk Scarf instead of the Leftovers, and take on Drasna, I just body her whole team. These are not particularly durable dragons for the most part. They're tricky, but not particularly durable. So defeating them isn't really much of an issue. Only her Noivern really gave me trouble, and that's because it was still durable enough to withstand just one hit. From there I move on to Seabold, the Water-type Elite Four member, which, can I just say, the fact that there's a Water-type Elite Four member and that, at least in my opinion, he's probably the strongest of the bunch, is pretty cool. Water is a pretty underappreciated type. Even with the Silk Scarf attached, Seabold's Pokemon still give me a bit of trouble. Not his first one, but the second Pokemon he sends out, his Barbaracle, walls me pretty hard. Even Dig doesn't really do it, and trying Grass Knot like I did against the 8th Gym Leader's Avalugg doesn't really help either. Like, I can get past them, but they tend to do a lot of damage to me, since the Barbaracle has Cross Chop, leaving me easy pickings for Gyarados, which also lowers my attack with Intimidate. I do have a strategy that will work here, that being if I can get to Gyarados with full HP, I win, but that requires either Cross Chop to miss once, or my Dig to get a critical hit. So I have to rely on RNG, which means a few tries, but eventually I do get the crit that I needed, and I managed to power my way through his Gyarados and his Starmie to win this battle as well, which opens the way to the champion, Diantha, who, at least in my opinion, I don't know if this is a common sentiment amongst the fandom, but at least in my opinion, is one of the better champions in these games. Like, she's no Cynthia, but next to Cynthia, she probably has the most balanced champion team. And unfortunately for that reason, and because 2 of her Pokemon are the hybrid rock-type fossil Pokemon from this game, one of which is Tyrantrum, which can just, it can, like I say, stuff hits like a truck a lot. I really mean it with this guy. He hits so hard. Between the balance and that, defeating her is no easy matter. Fortunately, both of her fossil Pokemon rely on moves that have less than 100% accuracy, and they are technically weak to dig. I just can't one-shot them with dig. In fact, for a while, I wonder if trying to get to the point where I can one-shot them with dig isn't the best option here. So again, I allow myself to be blacked out, and I go get a soft sand. Come back, battle through the Elite Four using the same strategies I have to this point, and I try again, and I still can't one-shot the Tyrantrum. And I can't even one-shot the Aurorus, which is the Pokemon that I was hoping I would at least be able to. I didn't expect to be able to one-shot the Tyrantrum. I was hoping to be able to one-shot the Aurorus to make up for it. So the soft sand isn't the answer. I try Eviolite to increase my damage resistance, but it isn't the answer either, because now I'm not doing extra damage with any of my moves of any type. It really does seem like just using Silk Scarf and hoping for RNG again is the best option. Because again, it's really only one problematic Pokemon, that being Tyrantrum hits so hard with Head Smash that even though it takes itself out, it leaves me weak enough that her other guys can pick me off. It really comes down to the same thing as with Barbaracle earlier. I have to either get a critical hit with Dig, or I have to wait for a not 100% accuracy move to miss. So I just reset, and I reset, and I reset, and I pray that when I finally get the battle that I need, her Aurorus doesn't use Reflect, because that would suck. And I reset, and I reset, and finally I get a run where I almost reset, but I had a good feeling about it as the battle was going on, so I decided to play it through, and I'm really glad that I did. As usual, I one-shot her Hawlucha and her Goodra both with Powered Up Return, bringing me to Tyrantrum, who misses his Head Smash, allowing me to take him out with 2 digs without taking any damage. This leaves me with max HP for Aurorus, and this is where I almost reset. This is where I thought I had lost. I do some damage to it starting out with Crunch, trying to hit it as hard as I can, as fast as I can, instead of using the 2-turn dig to avoid it using Reflect. But it does, which sucks, as that halves all damage from my physical attacks, and I am purely a physical attacker. And then it hits me hard with a Blizzard. But now that Reflect is up, I want to try to stall out Reflect, so I use Dig to waste 2 turns, and I knock it out with that. I come against her Gourgeist, while Reflect is still up, attack it with a super effective Crunch at half the damage it would have done. It still does a pretty good amount of damage. And at this point I expect to be knocked out by its Seed Bomb, but I'm not. I survive on 2 HP, the Reflect ends, and I'm able to finish it off with another Crunch. I'm going into her final Pokemon, her ace, her Mega Gardevoir, with only 2 HP. Never in this entire playthrough has it been more true than it is right now that my success will depend on whether or not I can one-shot a Pokemon. Can I even outspeed it? Did I give myself enough speed EVs to increase my speed enough that I can outspeed this thing? I don't know. I don't do math. What's 2 plus 2? Is it 5? I don't have any idea. All I can do is hit return and pray to God, and I guess she was listening because I one-shot her Mega Gardevoir and win the game, getting myself into the Hall of Fame along with Little Joey and my ragtag group of other random-ass Pokemon, including, I don't think I ever mentioned, I also caught a Love Disc to use Surf, named it Sarah, again after another one of the Pokemon in one of my Let's Plays. And you want to know the interesting thing about all of that? I haven't mentioned it so far in the video, but I did all of that with an attack down nature Rattata. So standing there at the end of the game on that stage, getting my medal for flying the X-Wing that blew up the Death Star, or whatever the heck this is for, I feel very, very proud of myself. I really, when I noticed what nature Joey had, I really should have just started over. But I stuck with it, and I did it. And I had a blast. And even though I did lose part of the footage that should have gone into making this video, I hope you guys had a blast too. And I hope you guys give me more ideas for more of these in the future. Again, I have a couple of ideas. I'm working out exactly how to tackle them. They're going to be a little more complex than just single Pokemon challenges, because one of those, the more complicated of them, is going to be a series of videos, so I want to get it right out the gate. Until then, let me know what other kinds of challenges you'd like to see. Leave them in the comment section down below, and while you're at it, go watch my other challenges a couple more times. They need the views. I am still a little sad that poor little Joey didn't get to evolve, but at the end of the day, I think, just as I'm proud of myself, he deserves to be proud of himself, too. Even though he did lose to AZ in the final battle. As per usual, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.